Welcome to the Stranger Conversations podcast, where we explore the lives and lessons of those around us, hidden in plain sight. I'm your host, Tay Jones. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the show. We're talking to Rob Mariano, or as millions of people know him by, Boston Rob. Rob began his career on television on Season 4 of Survivor. He's gone on to be the first and only 6-time contestant on the show. He's been on The Amazing Race twice, among other shows, and he also met and married his wife on TV. He's been on television for nearly 2 decades. He's been able to leverage his personality and personal brand into a career providing for himself and his family. As you'll find out in this episode, there's a lot more to Rob than what you see on TV. He's a really cool guy and a great family man. You're going to love this episode of the podcast. Here's a sneak peek of some of the things Rob shared on the show.
There is a lot more to me than just the show. The show doesn't really define me. My intention going into, sending an application tape 20 years ago to be on Survivor never had anything to do with having any kind of public persona. But at the same time, being on that show definitely did change the course of my life. He goes, there are 16 of you guys here. Only one of you is going to win. The other 15 of you are not going to win, and you have to be okay with that. Literally, at the time, I think there was 50,000 people that tried out for the show. And we're one of 16 of 50,000. It's like we were lucky, And to complain about it now, that it didn't go the way you want, it didn't seem right. I think a lot of people realize that I'm just a regular person. Yes, I get recognized when I go out places, but I don't have, it's not like I'm a superstar actor, Brad Pitt, can't go anywhere. I got to do a lot of cool things because of the show. Luckily, the TV aspect allowed me to pursue the things that I'm really fond of outside of the TV. I started a construction company, home renovation, a few years ago. I was playing poker semi-professionally for about 5 or 6 years. I think a lot of the things I do are competitive, but I was competitive enough that I actually traveled the circuit playing for a living for about 4 or 5 years. There's a big misconception about poker that it's just straight gambling. It's a game where you have to have patience, self-control, discipline, a lot of things that are really hard to master in your everyday life. Poker and Survivor have a lot of similarities. The ability to pay attention and tell a story that is believable. That's the key to both games. You can put your money in with the best hand and still lose because you get unlucky. Same with Survivor. The element of luck could triumph both and not let that kill you. The experience that I had 20 years ago when I was 25 years old is a lot different than the experience that I had just a year ago when I was 44. Those kids that were born because of the show, it's pretty awesome. Having 4 daughters, that's something that he told me 20 years ago when I was 25 years old, I would be like, no way, but it's almost like it was meant to be. Family's everything. It's the most important thing to me. Every stage of life has its challenges. With kids, we had 4 kids in 5 years, and it was a little bit wild. I love my daughters. I think I got a strong work ethic from my dad and mom. I think that's where I got my love of cooking too. Watching mom and grandma and dad, and then experimented on my own, just seeing, different techniques, from using the stove to the grill to the fire, and seeing what it does to the food. And I like traditional Italian food. I love to grill. I love to make a good steak. My parents are very loving. I'm still very close with them, and they were great parents. So if I could provide even some of what they did for me, then I feel like I'm doing them justice.
Now let's get on with the conversation.
Hello.
Hey, is this Rob?
This is Rob.
Hey, Rob, how you doing, man? It's Tay with Stranger Conversations Podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
Real good. Hey, man. Well, we're up and recording on your episode of the show. I appreciate you signing up. Looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a little bit of an intro, some of the highlights with, your career and everything coming up before this phone call portion of it. But I kind of think that this interview might be a little bit different than some of the other ones that you've done. So hopefully you find it a little refreshing.
Okay.
Some of the stuff you've done, in the public eye, a lot of people already know that about you. And, this show is kind of more about just getting to know people on a deeper level, kind of learning about their lives and, how their experiences have kind of shaped them and helped them succeed.
Yeah, for sure, dude. That sounds interesting and really cool. I mean, there's definitely a lot of people have seen me from my public persona, but I'd be happy to talk about whatever it is you guys are interested in or whatever.
Yeah. Great. Well, Rob, you've been on television for almost 20 years now. You've really been able to build a personal brand for yourself, as Boston Rob, right? The accent and all. And, but I'd be willing to bet and correct me, if I'm wrong, but I bet you there's a lot more to Rob Mariano than Boston and Survivor.
Yeah, no doubt. And, what's kind of funny is like my intention going into, sending an application tape 20 years ago to be on Survivor never had anything to do with having any kind of public persona, or my intention was not to build, like you said, a brand or anything like that. I just was a kid that wanted an adventure. I was working in construction in Boston at the time after graduating from college, and I heard about this show. I watched it once, and I was like, you know what, let me give that a shot. That might be fun. So it was like a nice little break from working in construction in the wintertime in Boston, going to an island somewhere and having some fun.
Yeah, or I bet.
And who would have known, like, a lot of it kind of did snowball into, like, lots of things that, like, I could have never have expected. And I'm really grateful for it. But going back to your original point, that there is a lot more to me than just the show. The show doesn't really define me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, being on that show definitely did change the course of my life, and led to me meeting my wife and having 4 kids, and, kind of pushed me in a direction that I wasn't really, expecting.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, a lot of people might be surprised to know, like, I still do work in construction. Like, I've always loved it. I renovate homes, and that's always been a passion of mine. So luckily, the TV aspect allowed me to pursue the things that I'm really fond of outside of the TV.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you mentioned, you have 4 girls. I have 3 boys, but I had 3 sisters growing up. Did you have any sisters growing up?
Yeah.
You did?
I had a brother and a sister. I still
Okay.
do. Yeah, 4 girls, definitely, definitely didn't expect that.
Yeah.
But with 3 boys, you get what you get, and you can't really, you don't dictate that.
Yeah.
So, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I really wouldn't. Like, I love my daughters. They're all really fun and unique, and they're all a little bit different. The oldest, Lucia, is very much like a first child. She's very organized and structured and wants to be a leader and be in charge. My second daughter, Karina, is the actress of the family. She's very theatrical, loves to sing and dance.
Yeah.
Isabetta is my third daughter. She's very sensitive, very, she loves animals. She's really a little bit more quiet and reserved, but emotionally, she's far and away the most intelligent in her emotional intelligence. And Adelina, the baby, she runs the show, or she thinks she does anyway.
Yeah.
She likes to think she's in charge. So all different personalities and all really really cool and really fun.
Yeah. Even just, just a cursory look at, your social media profile. It's very obvious, that family is a very important part of your life. What does family mean for you?
Yeah, family's everything. It's the most important thing to me. I grew up with a strong sense of family. My parents had my brother and myself, and we always did things together as a family growing up, and that was always instilled. I come from an Italian American family. My grandparents were immigrants, and a lot of it is like stereotypical, like every holiday, every birthday, every occasion, we were always together. And ironically, this is the week after Thanksgiving, and we just got together for Thanksgiving up in Boston. Despite the pandemic, everybody, took precautions to be safe and get tested and everything.
Yeah.
But we were able to get together, and I try to instill those same values in my kids. And we do lots of activities together. Life changes. You have three boys. How much your life changes when you have kids. It's not your own anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that we're able to spend the amount of time we do with them, and to have the adventures and share in that together.
Yeah. Yeah, your life ceases, to be just yours. That is true. I know it has for me. I'm assuming, becoming a father for you has really changed you as a man.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it does for everybody. It's interesting that, like I said, I go back to having four daughters. That's something that, if you told me 20 years ago when I was 25 years old, I would be like, no way. But it's almost like it was meant to be, and I wouldn't rather it any other way. I go to the mailbox and come back, and I still get "Daddy's home."
Yeah.
So they love their dad, and I love it. I love them, so much. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's important. I also noticed that all of your girls have Rose attached to their names. Who is Rose, and what's the significance
yeah.
there?
So Rose is my grandmother.
Okay.
Was my grandmother. She passed away. But there's a tradition in the Mariano family. All the girls' middle names were Rose. Ironically, my mother, who was not a Mariano, she married my dad, but her middle name was Rose also.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was just kind of a tradition, and we wanted to honor it. My oldest daughter was born on the 4th of July, which was the day that my grandmother Rose passed away.
Oh, really?
So it was kind of like out of respect and out of tradition, we decided to keep it going.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's cool. They love it. They love that they all share that. It's not lost on me that eventually someday they may get married and choose to take their husband's names, and at least their middle name will still have them bonded.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah, I always say, kind of like our upbringing, it shapes us, no matter what. Sometimes your parents are kind of the people you want to emulate when you get older and have your family of your own. Sometimes they serve as that example of what not to do. But it sounds like you had maybe more of the, you want to mirror kind of what you grew up with and what you were around as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I had a great experience. My parents were very loving. I'm still very close with them, and they were great parents. So if I could provide even some of what they did for me, then I feel like I'm doing them justice for sure.
Right.
But in the same respect, like a lot of people have shaped my life. They weren't the only ones. A lot of experiences.
Hmm.
I think I got a strong work ethic from my dad and mom. They both worked hard. Um, and in turn, I did too. And like a lot of the people that I work with had different effects on me. But ultimately, the life lessons that I've learned and try to pass on to my kids mostly have come from them.
Yeah. Yeah, family's important. It's actually Sunday today. What would a typical family Sunday night look like for the Mariano family?
Yeah, I mean, so my dad wasn't really, it's kind of ironic, he wasn't really into sports. And my brother and I, or myself, my sister, we all love it. So, like, now we'll sit around, we'll watch football games, we'll have a big dinner. But growing up, it just meant being together, you know, playing ball or hockey, street hockey we used to play growing up in the street, in the backyard. Dad would come down and play with us sometimes. And, mom would always have some kind of food going. Our house was always a house where everybody in the neighborhood seemed to migrate to. So there was always someone there. And, I think that's where I got my love of cooking too. Like my dad and my mom both cooked. And I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that about me.
Yeah.
But I do most of the cooking at home. My wife cooks for the kids, makes lunches, does that too, but I also enjoy it. I think it's become more, since the kids have been born, I think it's become more equal. But in the beginning, I definitely used to cook more, and I love to cook. I don't mind it. Not so much doing the dishes, though, right?
Yeah. I think that's the same in our household. I do most of the cooking.
Yeah.
I love to cook, man. What's your favorite dish?
Oh, man, there's so many. I like traditional Italian food. I love to grill. I love to make a good steak. I love experimenting with different things. I love fish and seafood. Growing up in Boston and New England, like all kinds of different like seafood and pasta dishes, like shrimp scampi, and would make a traditional. It's called fruta de mare, which has all different types of um, fish and crustaceans and shellfish from the oceans tossed with pasta, and it's really good.
Wow.
I made the traditional red sauce too, and of course, I love pizza. I love to make pizza, homemade pizza.
Oh, great. Yeah, and so did you learn most of your cooking skills from, hanging out with your mom and your grandma, or is it mostly just experimenting in, cookbooks and stuff?
I think both, not so much cookbooks, but watching mom and grandma and dad, and then experimenting on my own, just seeing different techniques from using the stove to the grill to the fire, and seeing what it does to the food, and different types of fats to add to different fish and proteins, whether it be oil or butter, or
Hmm.
and I've watched, now, there was no internet when I grew up and stuff, but now everything's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So you can there's a plethora of cooking shows and all kinds of things. So just kind of watching and emulating different people and trying different things and seeing what tastes good and what you like. I have, like I said, there's 6 people in my family, so trying to find one particular dish that everybody likes
Yeah.
is often difficult, but it's okay. We usually make more than one dish, and everybody shares, and then we have leftovers.
Yeah.
And everything is always served family style. So it's less of a formal activity and more of a, just place to gather and hang out and enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, I find that same thing. The more people you have, especially the kids, get picky, and I have to keep notes in my phone. Whenever I cook something, I make a note of who liked what and who didn't. And, sometimes I end up making something like half different than the other, just so everybody can have
Right.
something that they like.
And you know what's interesting is like a lot of times they'll like something one day and the very next day, no, I don't like that anymore. I don't know how
Yeah.
old your kids are,
Oh
but
no,
we're
they
in
do.
the age where they change their minds often depending on their moods and everything else.
Absolutely, yeah. And then they'll swear up and down they never liked it. That was never anything I liked. That you're crazy.
Yes, yes, I've had that experience before.
Yeah, yeah. Our kids, they're 9, 12, and 15, so they're all,
Okay,
they're all getting
a little
growing up
bit
bigger.
older than us. Yeah,
Yeah,
our oldest is 11.
okay. Yeah, the 15-year-old though. I mean, he'll eat anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's nice. It's fun how, like, every stage of life has its challenges with kids, and everything seems like so, of the moment. It was like, oh, get them out of diapers, and
Yeah,
I'll be happy. I tell you, the biggest thing for me was just when they could buckle themselves in their car seats. That
yep.
was like a game changer for me. It was like, okay, like because we had our kids so close together. We had 4 kids in 5 years,
Well,
and it was a little bit wild. I mean, I saw a picture the other day that Amber had of we had 2 double strollers in Disneyland, and I think the baby or in Disney World, and the baby was like maybe 6 months. So it was like a 6-month-old, a 1.5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
wow.
And I was like, what were we thinking?
Yeah,
You know?
get your hands full for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I remember everybody buckling themselves in. That was a big one. And also, whenever they started to use the remote control on their own, every time they needed something to watch something else, you always had to help them do it. And so I remember that was like a big milestone. It's like, oh wow, they can actually watch TV on their own now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, and they all have something different. I remember there's been a time in every single one of my kids' life that if you would have asked, hey, which one of your kids is going to go to prison, I would have said one of them at different times in their
Now you
childhood.
just say all of them are
Yeah, they're all
subject to be
they're all
locked up.
doomed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
I
see,
don't know.
so you mentioned playing sports and street hockey, street ball. Did you ever play any like organized sports, or was it mostly out in the streets?
Oh yeah, no, I did. I played Little League growing up. I played Pop Warner football. I played hockey. I learned to skate before I learned how to walk.
Oh
Like
wow.
literally, and I was lucky to have been exposed to all kinds of sports. I grew up in the city in Boston, and then when I was about 12 years old, my parents saw a better life for us in the suburbs, and we moved to the suburbs when I was going into 6th grade, and I got exposed to even more sports, basketball, golf, tennis, and
They kind of
and
did it all.
then yeah, I did it all. I played organized through high school, even into college. I played rugby, went to Boston University,
Hmm.
uh, and sports and being active was always a big part of my life. It still is. I still play hockey to this day, in a pretty competitive league. I live in Florida now, and it's kind of wild, but we skate like 40 games a year
Oh wow.
in like 5 months. So like with practices, like we're on the ice almost every other night.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
growing up in sports and everything, did you have any coaches that were just, great human beings that kind of shaped you into the man you became, or?
Um, I don't know so much.
Yeah.
I love the team aspect of sports. I love playing hockey. It was really what was difficult for me was when I did move. Like I mentioned, I grew up in the city and then I moved to the suburbs, and that was a tough transition for me at first. And then once I kind of found my way, I used sports as an outlet for just to make friends and to engage with different people and stuff. And then, ironically, I ended up going to a private high school. So I went from it was a private co-ed school in grade school to to a public middle school for 3 years, and then a private high school where a lot of my friends that I grew up with in the city ended up going to. So in Boston, there's lots of prep schools, and that's what it was. It was a college prep school. It was an all-boys Catholic school called Severian Brothers in Westwood. It was a great school, great education, but I got reunited with a lot of my friends that I used to know, before I moved to Canton, is the town we moved to from Hyde Park, which is in downtown Boston, or outside Greater Boston, rather.
Yeah.
So it was good to reunite with them. And then when I went to college, I went back into the city. So I had like lots of different friends from all different aspects of my life who I still keep in touch with to this day, like early grade school friends, middle school friends, high school friends, and college friends. And we all kind of still keep in touch. So it was like lots of different pockets of my life,
Yeah. So when you go back, like you went back for Thanksgiving, you're meeting up with, a lot of old buddies that you had back then now.
Yeah. Well, this time we didn't because of the pandemic, but we did, trade like on a holiday. If you look at my phone, like the different messages I get, it's pretty cool because like there's a lot of us that kind of connect from different parts of my life.
Yeah.
My college buddies, we started a tradition. There's 9 of us. And, everybody says when they graduate college, they're going to keep in touch with their friends. And then inevitably life happens and things fade. So on the eve of our last night of college, we decided to make a pact. And the deal was like through the 4 years of college, 5 years actually. I was there for 5. But some of the guys were friends from their sophomore year. But through those 5 years of college, every year on the Super Bowl Sunday, we'd all get together to watch the Super Bowl together. So on the last night of our last year, we said, look, we're going to make a pact. Every year, we're going to get together to watch the Super Bowl. Wherever each year somebody else is going to host it. And we're going to just get together for the weekend. And the only rule is if you don't show up, you can never come back, ever. And there were like a few exceptions, like if there was a death in the family, a wedding in the family, some types of things. Like, one of my buddies was in Iraq fighting in the Gulf War, so we gave him a pass 1 year.
Yeah, that's a valid excuse.
But we just literally celebrated our 26th year last year, and I'm happy to report out of originally there were 10 of us. There are 9 of us now. Wow. And we're still friends with the 10th guy, but we don't let him come back. and it keeps everybody loyal. Yeah, it does.
That's pretty impressive. You only lost one guy.
We've like gone all over. Like there's all kinds of rules to like the simple, like the only rule is if you don't show up, you can't come back, has got expanded extensively. And like now, like there's a host, and whoever's turn it is to host, we all drew names out of a hat. That person has to pick the location and plan the entire weekend. Everybody chips in to pay for it, and we've been all over the world, man. We've been all over the country. We've been out to the Middle East, to Dubai. We've been to Machu Picchu, to Hawaii, and it's been an awesome, long-standing tradition of friendship, and luckily all of our wives have supported it over all the years.
Yeah, man, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
I told the story to my agent about 15 years ago, and he loved it so much that he started it with his friends, and they've been going strong for the past 15 years.
Wow.
So it lives on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Man, so you're a big Patriots fan, I take it?
Love the Patriots. Love the Red Sox. Patriots having a rough year this year.
Yeah.
Most of our players from Boston are either in Los Angeles or Tampa Bay right now.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, he grew up fortunate enough to be able to go to some Bruins games and see the Red Sox play. I went to college right in Kenmore Square there. So saw quite a few baseball games through college. And my brother lives right down the street from where the Patriots play in Foxborough.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, what other hobbies do you have? What do you do to blow off steam?
I was playing poker like semi-professionally for
Oh yeah.
about 5 or 6 years. Yeah. I'm friends with a bunch of guys that play and that are real professionals. And they kind of introduced me to the game. And I kind of took it upon myself to learn the game and was competitive. I think a lot of the things I do are competitive, but I was competitive enough that I actually traveled the circuit playing for a living for about 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Again, luckily I had the support of my wife, and she just whatever I want to do, she's behind me, and did pretty well.
Yeah.
I kind of slowed down with it once I started to have kids, and then once we had multiple kids, the traveling was too much. So I play more recreationally now. Obviously, in the last 9 months with the pandemic, everything's changed. I haven't played at all.
Yeah.
But was playing locally for a while.
Yeah.
Recently, I took up pickleball.
Oh yeah.
Started to play a little pickleball. Yeah, and I still play hockey. I still love that.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you love about poker?
I think, well, first of all, like there's a big misconception about poker that it's just straight gambling. And what's interesting is that if you learn how to play the game well, then you can literally figure out how to beat it. And I'm not talking about the poker that you play against a casino or anything like that. All of those games are pretty much have a built-in edge for the house. But if you learn how to play the game of poker well against opponents that you're better than, then you can make money doing it. It's pretty competitive, and it's a game where you have to have patience, self-control, discipline, a lot of things that are really hard to master in your everyday life. And it's a good metaphor for a lot of things that people try to accomplish in business. So I think that's like what's attractive to me, the competitive nature of it and the ability to profit from it.
Yeah.
I started a construction company, home renovation, a few years ago with my wife, and I renovate, I buy houses and renovate them and fix them up and rent them. And that's cool. But in the initial, negotiating aspect of it, when you go to buy it, when you go to purchase it from a realtor or an owner or whoever it is, there's a bit of poker, and my poker comes in handy.
Yeah.
In that aspect of the transactions.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you think any poker skills helped you in the game of Survivor?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Poker and Survivor have a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
I think just the ability to pay attention and tell a story that is believable. That's the key to both games. I mean, you have to also be able to adapt to whatever situation you're thrown into and calculate the odds, the risk, assess your abilities, and do it in a way that you understand at the end of it all, the element of luck could triumph both and not let that kill you. Because in poker you can make all the correct decisions, but you can still get unlucky. You can put your money in with the best hand and still lose because you get unlucky. Same with Survivor. I mean, you you play the game and there are so many different variables, and the ultimate variable is, you're not playing with a chess piece or with a finite player. You're dealing with a living, breathing, emotional human being that can react in all kinds of different ways. Yeah. So you have to understand that, and then also the game itself, the way they have it structured now, there's an element of luck that, you have to either just be able to be okay with, because there's nothing you can do with it. It's changed a lot over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your favorite thing about being on Survivor?
It's a tricky question. I've been fortunate enough. I've spent quite a bit of my life out there, almost 188 days, and I've played different times at different times in my life. So the experience that I had 20 years ago when I was 25 years old is a lot different than the experience that I had just a year ago when I was 44. Yeah. So ultimately, winning $1 million, meeting my wife on the show, having 4 kids, but it kind of all culminated this last season on the winner's season, where my children got to come out to the show for a family visit, and it was like as if everything had come full circle. Yeah. When I first started the adventure, I was 25, like I said before, I was a kid just looking for an adventure, and now to have kids of my own that, understand the game, they're out there, they see what I'm going through, and they can enjoy it. Those kids that were born because of the show, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like you said, things change. You go on 25, and you're in your 40s now. How did it change? With the luxury item. What was the first luxury item you brought on season 4?
Yeah, I think it was a football.
A football, yeah.
Yeah, just brought a football to toss around and be social. Yeah. And now the game's evolved to the point where they don't even give you luxury items anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's secondary. Yeah, they don't. But that's the game itself has evolved too. Before it was a lot about your physical ability, your initiative that you took at camp, how much you worked at camp, how good you were in the challenges, how strategic you were. Mm-hmm. Almost none of that matters anymore. Yeah. Like how you could provide at camp. Literally on season 40, I heard somebody say, we're not going to vote somebody out just because they can't catch a fish, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like before that was totally a thing. But now it's such a social game, and ultimately that's what takes precedence over everything else now.
Yeah. You said when you signed up for the show, you didn't really have any intentions of fame or being known, etc. You just wanted that adventure. When you signed up, did you have any idea, or did you hope at all that this might make a name for yourself, or is that something you thought would even happen?
Not in the faintest. I never even thought about it. Yeah. When I went out for the casting, was the first time I'd ever been to Los Angeles. Celebrity was never anything even in my mind. The biggest thing was sports stars were celebrities to me, but actors and actresses I could care less. Here's a pretty cool story, dude. A lot of people will get a kick out of this. Yeah. When I was about 14 years old, I remember there was a sporting goods store in Boston that was just opening. It was called MVP Sports. And they were having Ray Bork, who was a hockey player on the Boston Bruins. A new defenseman was going to come and sign autographed. And I was so excited. And as a kid, I made my mom and dad bring me up there, stood in line, and I got his autograph, and he was my childhood hero, Mm-hmm. Fast forward to, 20 years later, and the Bruins reach out to me and asked me to drop the first puck at the All-Star game they were having. It was being hosted in Boston that year. And I ended up going with my sister. And before the game, they had a reception. They had a dinner and everything, and we were invited to, so we went to it. And all of a sudden, across the room, I see Ray Bork standing there. And my sister's like, oh, my goodness, you have to go over and say hi. And I was like, yeah, I do. I want to go and, shake his hand and tell him the story about, And I start walking over to him, and I get within about a few feet of him. And he does like a double take. He turns around, and he's like, oh, my God, Boston Rob, I can't believe it. My kids are huge fans. I have to get a picture with you. And it was just like mind blowing that like things had come full circle, And I told him the story about how I stood in line when I was a kid, and he was super gracious. And we took some photos, and my sister made a big collage after. But that was I got to do a lot of cool things because of the show. But that was definitely one of the most unexpected, coolest things.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good story.
Yeah.
So is there ever a time that you wish you weren't known by millions of people? Or has this kind of brought so much opportunity in your life that it's all been worth it?
With reality TV, it's kind of different. Like, I'm like, quote unquote, famous when I'm like in the reality TV circles. Mm-hmm. But like, I think a lot of people realize that I'm just a regular person, Yeah. So I don't have the trappings or the like. Yes, I get recognized when I go out places, but I don't have it's not like I'm a superstar actor. Brad Pitt can't go anywhere. I go out to dinner with my family. I go shopping at the grocery store. I cut my own grass. I take out the trash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm still living my life, and people recognize me and they want to take a picture or they want to say hello, but I think they understand that for the most part, and they're 99.9% of the time not intrusive. So it's a fun experience. I get to experience a little bit of that, but it's not like, oh my God, my life is like not my own anymore. I don't feel like that at all.
Yeah.
I still do what I do.
Yeah. Well, so what words of wisdom would you give to someone who's looking to be, on a show like Survivor or something else, when that's kind of their main driving factor is to be known?
I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, I would say go for the adventure. I remember something the creator, Mark Burnett, told us before we started our adventure the first time. He said, he goes, there are 16 of you guys here. Only one of you is going to win. The other 15 of you are not going to win. And you have to be okay with that. But just be grateful for the opportunity. And literally, at the time, I think there was 50,000 people that tried out for the show.
Wow.
And we're one of 16 of 50,000. It's we were lucky,
Yeah.
And to complain about it now that it didn't go the way you want, it didn't seem right. But I wouldn't, I don't think reality TV, I don't know. It almost feels like to me the reason why I was asked to come back so many different times and keep doing it is because I literally never did really care. And I still don't. Yeah. It's been awesome. I'm so grateful for everything that it's given to me. But at the end of the day, it's not in my control. It's not like I'm not going to continue to live my life if things don't go the way they're supposed to go on a particular show. Mm-hmm. So I don't think just go for the adventure. That would be my advice. I wouldn't go for anything but that. And if you do, then I think you'll be, thoroughly happy. And if not, you might be disappointed.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. In your life, what's the one thing you would never sacrifice for success?
So Survivor is a funny game where everybody has to draw a line in the sand. And it's a game where early on people used words like loyalty and integrity, where, the purpose of the game is to lie and manipulate and figure out different ways to get ahead.
Yeah.
That's part of it. So I always said, when I'm on a competition, I'll do whatever I can do within the rules of the competition, within the context of the rules to win. And then when the game's over, I'm not going to compromise that. So in a game, it's different than in real life, in my mind.
Yeah.
And it always has been. And I'm able to easily separate the two, where other people have a hard time doing that. So personally, I have my lines in the sand that I don't compromise on. And that's it,
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So I saw on your Instagram a little bit of a teaser. You said this is you were in the new set of something you have coming up. What's next for Rob?
Yeah, it's a teaser. That's why I can't say. But we have a few different projects we're working on. Like I said earlier in the interview, I've always loved to cook. It's always been a passion of mine.
Yeah.
So we're working on something in that space, and I'm still continuing to build my construction business and my renovation business, and that's what I'm focused on right now. Family, it's obviously a different time with everything that's going on in the world, with a global pandemic. So much like on Survivor, you have to figure out ways to adapt, and that's what we're trying to do. I think that's what everybody's trying to do, just day to day, figuring out different ways to get it done and to do it safely.
Yeah.
So we're no different in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah. The show, if whatever that ends up being, I'll check that out. Yeah, it looks like it'd be awesome.
Awesome, dude.
Where should people go, to learn more about you? Where are you mostly hanging out at online?
I mean, they can definitely check out my website, which is bostonrob.com, or I use Instagram and Twitter pretty regularly. I'm actually I've had a love-hate relationship with social media.
Yeah.
I just started Instagram about a year ago, and it's been positive. It's nice to be able to connect with fans in a medium that's like you can filter it. You know what I mean? So I encourage positivity and no negativity. And, a long time ago, there were forums and all kinds of stuff. And I know a lot of people had a tough time with that. I'm not the most tech-savvy person in the world. I've been doing Zooms with my family and stuff and trying to keep things straight with my kids and their online school. But, I think everybody has to figure out different ways during this time to still be able to connect and feel meaningful relationships with people, even if we're not, seeing them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I still try to do that. I actually had a reunion with the season 4 cast on Zoom not too long ago, a few months back, and it was fun getting to see everybody. And it's kind of sad that it took a pandemic for us to actually do that after all these years. But maybe when all of this is over, we can all figure out a way to get together in person again, because I know a lot of people are definitely craving that.
For sure. Yeah, this is interesting times that we're living in, for sure. It's, it hasn't changed necessarily a lot of my day-to-day life, but just the kids not being able to go to school where we live, that's huge. My wife's been working from home, and, the kids are also home, and it's been a struggle, for sure. But
Yeah, I do.
I think I've always said, oh, that'd be awesome to work from home, but not when the kids are here. I'm not
Now
sure.
when everybody else is there too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
I feel you, man.
yeah, her whole day is like 80%, video meetings and calls, and people asking for food. My kid wandered in one time in his underwear asking for something. Like, oh, sorry, I guess this is our new life.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of experiencing it right now, and fatigue is definitely setting in. Hopefully they figure out a vaccine soon, and hopefully everybody stays safe. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to have me on today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you signing up. And before we go, what's the best advice you've ever received in your life? It sounds like you've got a lot of great influences. I'm sure you picked up little morsels along the way.
Yeah, I think the most important thing the best advice I've ever got has been, that if you want something in life, you have to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good things don't come so easy, and you have to be persistent. And if you are, then you can accomplish anything you want. I tell my kids every day, all you have to do is have a goal, write it down, look at it, put it somewhere where you can see it every day, and work really, really hard to make it come true. And it can come true. But, we live in a generation now where everybody wants everything fast and quick, and it's the millennial way. And I truly believe that there is something to be said for the old school grind of just keep working at it, because persistence does pay off.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, you've kind of intrigued me. I've been to Boston. It was probably 35 years ago. I mean, hell, we were both kids at that point, right? Running around, doing our thing. But I'll have to get back there and check out, a little bit more of that city. But
it's a lot of fun, man. Yeah. They have great food too. So if for anything else, you'll have a good meal. And there's a lot of history there too. So
yeah. All right, man. Well, I'd love to, be respectful of your time. I really want to thank you for, for the phone call, and appreciate you opening up a bit and not being a stranger, and really wish you all the best in your continued success, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for you.
Thanks, Tay. I had a good time. It was a lot of fun. I hope you guys have a happy holiday season, and everybody stays safe. Okay, brother?
Absolutely. You too. Thanks a lot.
Okay, take care.
See ya. And there you have it, Rob Mariano, a.k.a. Boston Rob. I want to thank Rob for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for him as his life progresses. It sounds like he's got some really cool stuff coming up. Like he said, visit him at bostonrob.com. You can also follow him on Instagram, Twitter, and wherever else he's hanging out online. If you loved this episode of the podcast, hit subscribe so you don't miss out on the conversation. And as always, if you know someone with a life to share, a story to tell, or something they'd like to promote, share this show with them so we can continue to put out great content and share the lives and lessons of those around us, hidden in plain sight. Like, follow, share, and subscribe to the show and our social media so we can continue to grow our audience. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the conversation.